talk about the enactment of the Constitution. In 2005, and amidst bedlam, Parliament lifted the presidential term limits, allowing the incumbent to contest the presidency for life after national resistance movement-leaning lawmakers were offered a bribe of 5 million shillings at Mosa Court's apartments in Kampala to vote in favor of the amendment. Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde, an army representative in the 7th Parliament, who put up a flag against the amendment, was forced to resign under duress, and those who were pliant, like Hope Mwesije and James Kakoza, were rewarded with ministerial positions. Given Uganda's post-independence turbulent history, the term limits provision found a unique placement in Uganda's 1995 constitution and is anchored on the basic structure doctrine. Initiated by the Indian Supreme Court in one of its most important decisions ever, in the case of Keshvinanda Bharati versus State of Kerala. The doctrine postulates that the national character of the constitution has basic features, which underlie the letter and spirit of that constitution, and any amendment which purports to alter the constitution in a manner that takes away that basic structure is void. One of the exponents of the progressive value of the basic structure doctrine is Benson Tusasirwe, who teaches at Makerere University Law School. Shortly after the age limit provision was lifted by MPs in 2017, he urged that, and I quote, "Removing Article 102B, especially having earlier removed term limits, wipes out the very purpose for which the Constitution was enacted. What then was the purpose of making this Constitution? It is my submission that the amendment both in intent and effect undermines the basic structure of the 1995 Constitution. The amendment is therefore void and on that ground alone ought to fail." The jurisprudential value and interpretation of this decision is that any decision that seeks to eviscerate the basic structure of the Constitution is tantamount to writing the Constitution, which Parliament has no power to perform. Against the backdrop that Uganda's post-independence history was convulsed by tyranny, violence, and despotic rule, the term limits provision in the 1995 was meant to act as a safety net to protect citizens from an imperial presidency and against the leaders who rule over masses by the barrel of the gun. Today, elections in Africa are largely ritualistic and do not reflect the wishes of the masses. It is perhaps what has led recently to a wave of coups that have torpedoed tin pot despots across West Africa. Whereas coups may usher in new leadership, they do not underpin the ethos of democracy and may not protect the growth of nascent and fragile democracies to the much vaunted heights. In a nutshell, the need to change leadership encourages a rising generation of political leaders, fresh ideas, and possible policy changes. Term limits promote the health competition needed to strengthen democratic institutions and democratic processes. Term limits are a safeguard to protect democratic principles and prevent the emergence of authoritarian regimes. It helps to maintain a healthy balance of power, prevents the risk of leaders becoming entrenched and unaccountable. Incumbents are less able to use the state's power to manipulate elections when there are limits to the tenure of office of the presidency. Further, security officers are more likely to pay allegiance to the institutions that they serve and reject to serve the selfish interests of leaders that may attempt to arrogate this power to subdue the population. There are recommendations for the reinstatement and entrench Article 105 of the Constitution of Uganda, which requires that a person elected president under this constitution shall at maximum hold office for a 5-year term. In many people's view, the office of the president shall become vacant on the grounds of the expiration of the period specified in the article, or if the incumbent dies, resigns, or ceases to hold office under Article 107 of the Constitution and Article 105, subsection 2, on the term limits shall be entrenched and shall only be amended through a referendum of all Ugandans eligible to vote. Rahim Nwali, AIIJ Explains.